Welcome back to Money Talks. Today we're talking about budgeting, why you should be making decisions about where your money is going instead of letting your money make decisions for you. All right, so there's a few key points when it comes to budgeting that I want to go over today. The first one is a budget doesn't do what a lot of people think a budget does. So, a lot of people, and what I hear all the time, is that a budget restricts how much money you can spend and what you spend it on. But that doesn't make any sense. What a budget actually does is it prioritizes where your money goes. Everybody has a limit on their spending. No one can spend unlimited money. So you're restricted to that already. What a budget does is say, hey, my priorities are these, and therefore my money is going towards those priorities. So, point number one is a budget gives every dollar a job. It's not about restriction, it's more about intention and intentionality. And everybody has a budget, no matter what you think about money or where you're at in your financial journey. So, make your budget reflect your goals. That makes much more sense to me than just spending on whatever and not worrying about your priorities whatsoever. Point number two is allocate your money with purpose. I think budgeting with percentage allocations makes the most sense. So, what I mean by that is you should look at your budget and out of 100%, what percentage do you want to allocate of that money towards whatever your goals are? So, for your saving and investing, if that's the most important thing to you, is to invest for the future, then a higher percentage of your overall total number should go towards that. Or if spending on unnecessary stuff, living life for the present, even if that's your outlook on life, you should have a higher percentage. That doesn't mean that you just spend whatever. You only have so much. Remember, you only have up to that 100%. Nobody has 101% of the money they have. They only have 100%. So, what percentage is going to go towards your goals? Well, I think a higher percentage should go towards the things that matter. Now, you got to be responsible at some point and say, hey, listen, unnecessary spending, spending on cars and watches and jewelry and fun stuff, vacations is important for a healthy life. You should be able to spend a little bit on that, on those things. But I think you should also be able to spend as much as you're spending on that stuff towards your future, towards saving and investing for that future. That's my opinion. So, what I use is the Money Talks budgeting system, also known as MVP, the Money Victory Playbook. And that's where you take a budget of 50, 25, 25. Why do I do it like this? 50% goes towards your needs. That's all the things that you have to spend on. 25% goes towards your wants. That's all the fun stuff we just talked about. And then 25% goes towards saving and investing. I think you should at least be putting a matching amount towards saving and investing that you are spending on unnecessary things that you don't actually have to spend on. So, where did I get that budgeting allocation system from? Well, there's a really good book called Profit First. It's by Mike Michanowski. It's a business book and it talks about allocation of income in your business. But what I do is I apply that business model to a personal financial system. It just makes sense to me. If you want to have a successful financial system, you should run your personal finances like it's a business because it is. And so that's kind of where I get that budget allocation from. Now, point number 3 is your budget is a living document. And what I mean by that is you should have a level of adaptability in your budget. So many people fail at budgeting in the same way that they fail with diet and exercise. If your budget is so stringent that it cannot change whatsoever, then it's going to be very difficult, dang near impossible for you to follow because life isn't like that. Life is up, down, around, flip, turn 180, do a backflip. Like life changes, right? So as life changes, you should be able to adapt to those life changes. So you got to be able to have some variability in your budget. And also don't try to be perfect right away, right? So one common thing that I see is people go all in on something when they get excited about it, and that's totally cool. Like I love that motivation, but it causes you to kind of backslide. So what I mean by this, let me elaborate. With a diet and exercise, for instance, perfect example. Somebody is overweight and they want to lose weight, so they immediately go from eating McDonald's 3 times a day and not exercising at all, and they say, "I'm gonna do a 100% uh, twist and turn, and I'm a 180, 100%, and I'm gonna start dieting, restricting my calories by like 1,500 calories, and I'm gonna exercise every single day." You realistically can't do that. Very few people are going to have success going from the worst lifestyle to the very best lifestyle. And it's similar with finances. Very few people are going to have success going from spending frivolously, freestyling with their money, not having a budget at all, not having any type of system or strategy with their money, and then restricting their money to the degree of even a moderate system like I think a 50-25-25 is, right? Even a 50-30-20, which is pretty common in the finance space, is very difficult to do out of nowhere if you've never done it before. So what I recommend to give you some actionable steps is see what you're spending right now, right? We talked about tracking your money in another podcast. Track your money, see what you're spending now, see where your allocations lie. And if you're spending 75% on things you don't need, okay, we'll bring that down a little bit. If you're saving nothing, well, let's start with 1%. Start with 5%, something super low. And that way you can build yourself up to a position where you're comfortable and you're starting to grow like slowly. And that way it's actually something you can manage over a long period of time and you can continue for the rest of your life. You don't have to, it's not like a complete 180 where you're doing something so different that it shocks you and it makes it very difficult and you just backslide and go back to your old ways. So that's what's mostly going to happen. So, point number 4 is let's go over some common mistakes. Okay. The first one is while we're making these budgets, you got to remember your irregular expenses, things that come out every few months. Insurance, a lot of insurance is annual. The renewal at least is annual. Think about maintenance on your car, things that pop up continuously. You always need an oil change every so many miles. So you got to kind of factor that in. Your annual bills, some things don't come out every month, so you don't end up putting them in your budget. And then you overspend in other categories. And then, your insurance comes out or whatever it is. And you end up going over budget. So some things to think about, right? The next thing is setting unrealistic spending limits. We kind of talked about the being unrealistic with your goals, or at least with your budget. You got to set realistic spending goals. If I say like, hey, I'm only gonna spend $100 on groceries, for me that's not realistic, right? I eat a lot. I'm gonna spend more than that in a week, right? So if I set that goal or if I set that number for my month, I'm not going to hit it ever. So you're gonna lose motivation. You're gonna be like, budgeting doesn't work. This sucks. Just set realistic numbers, right? Take your overall and set realistic numbers. And then of course, uh, I'll mention again, don't try to change everything overnight and think you're gonna be a financial guru like tomorrow. You gotta start slowly. Start building those habits in, because it does take a while to actually set those habits and make them solid, solidify those habits in your mind, right? So, uh, number five, I want to talk about some kind of a psychological thing when it comes to budgeting. So, what I think budgeting does, and this is why I think it's really important for people to do, is it gives you some level of freedom as you don't have if you're just freestyling. And what I mean by that is, if you know exactly where your money is going, well, it's very easy for you to see the trajectory of your life. And so, what I mean by that is, the more metrics you track, and this doesn't just go for money, this goes for everything: time, money, food. The more metrics you track, the more clear your life becomes. You become clear on exactly what you're doing, how much you're doing it, and where that's going to lead. And so when it comes to money, if you want to intentionally end up in a particular goal, it's very easy to see, okay, I'm tracking this. I know exactly how much money is coming in, going out. I know how much I can spend on these different things, and these are my priorities. And it makes your whole financial picture clear so that you can say, okay, my goal, my end goal is to retire with this much money. This is what I need to do. And then you look at your overall financial picture and say, okay, I need to change my habits in this way, in these ways. I need to set up my financial system in these ways, and that will lead me to this goal. It's all about what you put in and what you get out of it. But you have no idea what you're putting into it. You have no idea where your system is leading you. Then you'll have no idea if you're going to hit your goals or not. I hope that makes sense. Just the more clear you can make what you're doing and how you're doing it, the more clear it is if you're going to hit your goals or not. And then you can start making adjustments. So, just remember, a budget doesn't limit your freedom, it creates freedom. That's what it does. You have to have a financial system. Without a system, you're just freestyling. I don't know how else to explain it, right? My first boss ever, I was a personal trainer. I was 19. It was my first real job, right? She used to say, proper preparation prevents poor performance. The 5 P's. I'm pretty sure there's some type of military saying that's very close to that, but I had no idea about that saying. I just heard her say it and I thought it was cool. So, proper preparation prevents poor performance. If you prepare in advance to spend money in a way that mirrors your priorities, then you will achieve your goals financially. And that level of freedom is something that I value. So get a budget. All right, guys, that's all I got for you today. Hey, thanks for sticking around with Money Talk. Subscribe, like the video, and I will see you in the next one. I'm out.